Hello, everyone. I am Beth, and I'm joined today with David, and we are here for the Unfiltered Vet Discussion podcast. It is just the two of us today, and you know where to find us, so I'm not going to do all of that. But today I'm excited. We are in December of 26 or 2025 right now, getting ready to go into 26. And David and I both really like numbers, and we like talking about him, especially even more than me, and is probably much better at it than me. I just dabble in it as a practice owner. But it's something that I think is really important when you own your own business, that you should be tracking a lot of stuff. So we kind of batted around, maybe we have a little conversation centered around what are things that you should be reviewing at year end or looking ahead into the new year, things you should be tracking, some KPIs or other goals and things, and just sort of centered around that topic. So I'm going to let David start because then I will just pick your brain as we go.
Yeah, I think, you know, you're probably listening to this in January. I can't believe how quickly 2025 went by.
I know.
Things pick up speed, I think.
They do.
Probably, I pondered that, why does it get faster? Certainly as the kids get older, and what I see is we're filling our schedules more and more, which makes the days go by quicker. And you notice that as kids get older, because their activities increase, your business activities increase, responsibilities increase, and yeah, the days and weeks go by. So yeah, 2025 in review. We only got a couple of weeks now, but
I know.
that's coming. I think that one of the things I recommend, and this is really for practices that have multiple doctors. By the end of January, you have to have your W-2s and 1099s done. What I like to see, and I'd be curious if you do this, what you see, but just build a simple spreadsheet. You could do it in pen and paper too, but list of all the doctors and then their W-2. Right next to that, run a revenue by doctor report and have that in column three, and then divide the W-2 by their production. This is coming up with the effective compensation rate. So it's not your actual math to get to the W-2, and it can be funky numbers because you might have one doctor that gets a health insurance stipend or a
Right.
special bonus. That's in the W-2. You might have another that gets evening and weekend differential.
Right.
That's in the W-2. And the production reports are however your software records production. So it could be things in there that you don't compensate on, such as products or products with less than a 50% markup. But it's the production, and it should be relatively evenly recorded among your doctors. But if you divide the W-2 by the production, you're getting the effective compensation rate. And it allows you to look at, I think, from a couple of perspectives, because we do this in every valuation. Number one, it's the opportunity, is this what we intended to compensate them?
Right.
Because we have folks that say, oh, we pay 21% production. We just had this last month. And we look at the effective, and it's even, and it's 24.3. Oh, no, we
Mm.
don't pay that. I'm like, you're paying that.
Right.
And they went and checked with the person doing the math, and they were doing the math wrong. Paying their doctors 3% production more for the last several years. Now they have to go and take that back
Yeah.
and fix it. So it's the opportunity to check your math. Are you paying
Right.
what you intend to pay? Number two, is what you're paying appropriate? I had a practice I was working with yesterday. Their effective compensation was 13% of production, not 20, 21.
Yeah.
And the reason to look at that, headhunters are cold calling associates now. Hey, what'd you produce last year? Oh, 800. What'd you get paid? Oh, 135. I got somebody that'll pay you 200. You just lost an associate because you
Right.
didn't look.
Right.
And in this same practice, this is the third reason to look at it. Is it equitable? It, the associates don't talk among themselves, but in this practice, that one doctor was getting 13.5 effective compensation. Another doctor was getting 16.7. The one getting 13.5 outproduced the other doctor by about 200,000, but was paid $40,000 less.
Oh God.
If you see that, you got the opportunity. Wouldn't that rock their world to go up to them and say, "Hey, can I give you a $50,000 raise next
Yeah,
year?"
really. My doctors would be like, yes,
Yeah.
I'll take it all.
It's to make it equitable, right?
Yeah.
But I think looking at that annually, that effective compensation, if you do it, I'd love to see you probably have very good math. You know what they're getting paid, and it's consistently applied.
Yes. I've
So
never
many
done
practices.
that specific calculation though, which I'm totally going to because I have a very nice spreadsheet that I have made and tweaked over the years that like breaks down what everybody brings in by month. And then I have it broken down in categories because there's some things they don't earn production on. We do
Right.
20% production, so they earn 20% on the vast majority of things. And then some of the things that aren't marked up as much, they earn like 10% on. So I track all that math. And then they're paid quarterly. Like we
Okay.
track it over 3 months and then run the numbers and then they
I
get
like the broader period for that base plus.
Yeah,
Uh,
because I feel like that helps for eliminate some of the variables of like them going on vacation. So they're not like
right.
necessarily getting dinged for that. Like it helps kind of average it out a little bit. And all of my doctors pretty much earn. Like I've had usually when a new doctor comes on board, it maybe takes them about 6 to 9 months to start really hitting production as
Sure.
they're like building up and getting their client base going and getting used to our practice style. But they pretty much all earn. So I feel like the calculation you suggested, though, is probably good for me to do just to make sure that they're where they should be, for sure.
Yeah, I like now when we value, we look at 3 to 4 years and we look at that every year so we can
Mhm.
see is it consistent? How's the structure? Is it replicable and sustainable? Because all that contributes to the profit and the value. But I think as a management tool, having that master spreadsheet over multiple years of your effective compensation is good. You mentioned the base. And the end of the year, beginning of the year, certainly is a good time to assess your bases for
Yeah,
your associate salaries. And it should move up or down. They start producing more, you can bump their base up. They start
yeah,
producing less, the base should come down.
yeah,
The base should be set so that you're always paying that bonus, the
yeah.
quote unquote bonus. It should be called equalizer or reconciliation, some other term than bonus because that has an odd connotation, I think.
I agree. I agree. Do you find that most practice owners are doing like relatively on the higher end as far as base? And then, because I know for a while there were some places that were doing straight production or they
Right.
would have sort of a low base salary and then they would just make up the difference with, then earning a lot more as far as that like production bonus goes. Do
Yeah.
you feel like that's still the trend, or more people are doing like a higher base and then sort of like the bonus is like a kicker on top of that?
Yeah, I do see pretty high bases. Oftentimes, the practice will say, 70 or 80% of what you produced last year or what you were paid last year will set that as a base.
Okay.
And I think that's a good reference. But if you find that somebody's not covering their base and getting the plus, then that base should come down. I'm
Right.
not a fan of negative accrual.
Yeah, we don't do that.
I think that negative accrual means your base is not set correctly,
Right. That's how I
essentially.
feel. And I feel like
Yeah.
if if they're not hitting it consistently, then I don't necessarily think they should be punished and you should take that away, but I think you need to have a conversation and adjust their
Yes.
base. Like that, I feel like is where it's at. Like not necessarily like punishing them for not hitting their like
Yeah.
set value.
And even before you adjust the base, hitting on what you just said, the conversation is, okay, how can we help you utilize the team more?
Right.
Because we want to be paying that plus for you. And
Right.
let's look at how you're using the time. The other reason to track production, and a practice owner mentioned this to me, is probably about 5 years ago. I think it was at VMX. I spoke and I talk about reviewing the effective compensation and reviewing doctor production. And she came up afterwards and said, We track that production on quarterly, doctor to doctor. And what we noted was one of our associates, her production was coming down. On the surface, everything looked happy, happy, copacetic, but her production numbers were coming down. So the manager met with her, and the associate in the room just burst into tears. Her personal life was going to heck in a
Hmm.
handbasket.
Yep.
Family issues, dynamics, senior care. Nobody had a clue. And the only evidence was her production.
Yeah.
And she was planning to quit at the end of the week.
Oh God.
So they would have lost a doctor. But
Yeah.
because they tracked it, they were able to say, no, let's take some time off. Let's get you
Yeah.
some support and be proactive and
Yeah.
save a good associate
Yeah.
and help her get through this. So, paying attention
Yeah.
is,
Can be red
because it
flags.
does raise the opportunity to have a discussion.
Yeah. And I've started too, like well, not started, I've been doing it for a long time, but I've fleshed out over time. Every quarter when when we sit down, I sit down with each doctor and I have
Oh,
like a little
nice.
handout spreadsheet that I give them that shows like where they are year to date with what they've earned each quarter. And then it has a little summary at the top of the last couple of
Nice.
years. And then it has like a breakdown of like how much vacation they have left. And like I sort of do like a little check-in and I'm like, how are things going? Because people are really afraid to speak up, I think, unless sometimes they're like directly asked. And there have been so many things that have come out of those little
Yeah.
one-on-ones where my doctors then in like that one-on-one setting are more comfortable like telling me about something that's going on in their personal life or talking about something that they need or something that's been stressing them out. And I feel like that just as an aside, even though that's not directly related to the numbers, but it can be like you
Oh,
just said,
sure.
absolutely checking in on them. I think if you're not asking, you're not going to know. And I feel
Yeah.
like a lot of people will need to get better at asking.
That's a great goal for 2026 for those, and not just with your associates, but with all your leaders and the leaders you're cultivating.
Yeah.
Routine check-ins, not an annual review, just a routine one-on-one. That's brilliant,
Yeah.
especially when it's the eighth, 10th, 12th time because you're building that relationship
Yep.
and which loosens the jaw, makes it more comfortable, trusting environment through repetition. I love that. And
Yeah.
and that would be a great goal for
Yes.
practices, both with the associates, but your entire team. Go out for a cup
Yeah.
of coffee, sit down. Hey, how things going? 15-minute check-in.
Yep.
Spontaneously well planned.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I
Oh,
find
I
that
love that.
that is a good goal. If you're not doing that, you should do that.
Yeah.
And even if I know it's daunting, like for us, I have like 50 staff members. So
Yeah.
like getting it started a couple years ago when we started doing it with everybody, not just the doctors, it was really daunting. But I think even if you just start small, like, okay, I'm just going to do it with my doctors and I'm just going to do it with my management team. And then maybe the next year, then your management team can be doing it with
Yeah.
the people below them and break your team up into smaller groups. Like, but doing check-ins is a way to have like a good finger on the pulse of how your practice is doing, even just talking to your regular staff members. Like
Yeah.
they're very valued in seeing the things that are and are not working on the day to day and some of that stuff that like I would never see because staff members don't do that
Yeah.
stuff in front of me or like things are happening when I'm not there on the floor and then I hear about it, throw those check-ins a lot of times, which then can help you make improvements where there's areas that maybe you didn't know there was a problem.
Yeah, 100%. And this doesn't, we're not talking the owners listening, yes, doing this, but practice managers
Yeah.
listening, the leaders listening to take this action and check in. I
Yeah.
think that's brilliant. So goal number two, one, effective doctor compensation, and number two, the check-ins. Get
Yeah.
that on your goals for 2026 for sure.
Agreed.
Love
Okay,
that.
what's your next one? What would be goal number three?
So number three, and I mentioned this when I talked too, but creating a PPI. So your practice price index. Everyone does, oh, we adjust our fees annually. And that's good. I think that 3 to 5%, some practices do it twice a year and
Mhm.
whatnot. But the practice price index, so again, a spreadsheet, right? Get those
Mm.
numbers. In the first column, put as close to 50 as you can of items you use internally. So printer cartridges, reams of paper, cleaning supplies, caps, gowns, gloves, syringes, drapes, cotton balls, gauze, 50 items are as close as you can get.
Okay.
Column number two, how much you would typically order. One box of 10 cc syringes or a complete set of printer cartridges, HP. These first two columns do not change. So if you switch from an HP printer to an Epson, you don't go back and change that. Those always stay the same. Skip a column because formatting's important. And then in the next column, put today's date. If I ordered that item in that quantity, what would it cost? And run down through all 50 of those. At the
Okay.
bottom, sum it up. Save it the file where you know you can find it, and you're done. I like every 6 months or at least annually, you update that. So 6 months from now, you're in June, open it up, today's date. If I bought that item in that quantity, what would it cost today? Sum that up. At the bottom, the percentage increase from 6 months ago to today, you need to adjust your service fees. Might be small,
Hmm.
0.25%, but your internal costs went up by 1/4%. What I like about this is it puts the fingers on the pulse of your internal costs,
Yeah.
but you listening to this, you do not do it. You delegate this.
Yeah.
This goes to one of the people you're cultivating as a future leader
Yeah.
or the head receptionist, CSR. In their
Yeah.
downtime, yeah, it's been 6 months. And when someone else is doing it, and this is the part that gives me chills, you're in your staff meeting and then somebody else says, oh, hey, I updated our PPI and we need to adjust our service fees by 0.16%. It's not you. It's not the
Yeah.
management team saying this. It's in front of everyone. Our internal costs went up. We need to adjust.
Yeah.
And so very simple, but it gives you some facts.
Yes.
Still stick with your other fee increases, but this quantifies the creep of your
Yes.
internal supplies, and it never goes backwards.
Right.
So, yeah, if things go up and then for whatever reason they come back down, that's fine. Your fees
Smooth
never
it.
go backwards.
Yeah.
But
Wow,
yeah, I
that's
like that PPI.
yes, I love that. I have never done that, and I love that because I feel like those what are sometimes called like the white goods of
Yeah,
practice, like the background costs, like they are really hard to know how they're impacting things because we've had this conversation where we're like, when we've like updated some of our surgery fees, we like did the math of like, okay, a spay takes approximately this
right,
long. So this is, let's account for the doctor's hourly compensation. There are two nurses involved, their compensation. You use two reams of suture. So what do they cost? The anesthesia costs. So like we've done that to try to figure out to make sure we're covering our costs and having an appropriate amount of profit on like some
right.
of our surgeries. But like there's so many other days and times and everything else you do in the practice that is impacted by those white goods that there isn't really an easy way to
Yeah.
track how those prices are changing for sure. Yeah, I
Oh,
love that.
and not just product creep of sellable items, but internally used supplies. I
Yeah.
remember back in Dad's practice. Now things have changed. But we would go in, and when Dad's working on the weekend, we're cleaning the syringes because he
Oh yeah.
reused them,
Yes.
right? And I don't know, we'd always go home with two or three of them because we use them as squirt guns, especially the really big ones.
Yeah.
And, and so things go out, people need them, you need them for glue, or so employees just internally use them.
Right.
And this way you're paying attention to that, capturing some of that creep.
Yeah.
And you don't have to do it. Somebody else does, right?
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
that's a fun one.
Yeah, I love that. That's a great suggestion. I'm definitely going to do that.
Cool.
I
Love
love that.
that.
See, I said if we talk, I feel like I'm gonna be like I'm like taking notes, like, okay, I'm gonna make this spreadsheet for sure.
Now, that's not my idea. I forget where I got it. It was so long ago. It might have been something Dad did or one of my colleagues, right? We're all standing on the shoulders of giants and the folks we learn from and mentors. And I've had a
Yeah,
bunch of very good ones. Might have been Louise Dunn or Ross Clark, maybe.
yeah.
But
Well, it's a great
yeah, I
idea.
love it.
Yeah,
I love it. And actually, to the folks that are listening, if you do any of these, yeah, let us know.
yeah,
Put it in the comments, or if you have questions also on that effective doctor compensation, yeah, just reach out. We're certainly happy to help.
yes.
The
And I would
last,
advise that they reach out to you over me. Though I will gladly try to help them. I feel
yeah,
like they will get a much clearer or more concise answer from David than from
yeah.
Beth.
I
If
have
they want to
one.
lament about how
Yeah,
expensive everything is, I would love to have that conversation.
yeah, yeah, really. That the last one, and this is more of a resolution, right? Not necessarily a tip, and a challenge. I hear too often folks not using their practice management software to help with the inventory. And we've talked about cost of goods sold, and it's the number one financial disease. The challenge I'd like to throw out, dear listener, is for you to use your practice management software for inventories. Like Beth mentioned, start small. When we were talking, start small as far as quarterly meetings with the team. Start small with using your software for inventory. Just do it for your parasiticides, your flea,
Yeah.
tick, heartworm. That's it. Let that become routine. You can add in pet foods next and then other, but challenge yourself to start. The softwares out there are great for inventory
Yes.
management.
Oh,
Do it for your parasiticides because that
yeah.
creeps to no end. And now
Yes.
you got a tool. So let that be your resolution for your practice.
Yeah. And I will say on that front, so we use Cornerstone. We're like in it to win it with Cornerstone at this point, unless something dramatically changes. And it has pros and cons. But one of the things I do really like about Cornerstone is their whole management section for inventory is very robust. And
Yeah,
we have it set up that it automatically adjusts the price when you receive the items because you put in, like, say, for example, we're buying prednisone
yeah,
and we buy prednisone in a bottle. Prednisone went up by like $5 a bottle. We have it set that once we receive that and our inventory manager puts in the new price, it automatically calculates the new price for the pills, taking into account the difference in what it costs the hospital. So we
yeah.
have like preset percentage, markups. And by doing it that way, we're making sure if, we're following the market. So if
Yeah.
something goes way up in price, we're not realizing that 6 months later and like, holy shit, for 6 months, we've basically
Yeah.
lost money on this product because it like doubled in price. So, and that has absolutely happened like before we had it set up really nicely, like way back in the beginning. There were a couple times that happened to us, and we were like, holy crap, like we need
Yeah.
to be doing a better job of like managing this because those prices change every time you order them sometimes. And if you're not tracking that or
All
you
the
don't have a
time.
system in place to make sure that what you're selling that product for is changing with the market price, you are going to get burned by that.
Oh, and you're protecting the practice so that
Yeah.
you can continue to take care of the team, that you can reinvent all those reasons. It's about protecting the practice. And reference lab is another one that
Yeah.
notoriously those fees go up and they get missed. And
Yes.
that penalizes the practice for that and the
Yeah.
team, because of it. So,
Yeah, that's one of our big year-end projects is when we get their like updated price list. We use IDEX and they send this like big, huge list of all the prices. And we go through it every year at the very
yeah,
end of December, beginning of January, and we look at what our markups are and we look at how the price changed and we take that into account. And my one other, point in that area is don't be afraid to negotiate too, because
yes.
we go back to IDEX. They're probably like, oh, this bitch again. Because literally every year we have like a few panels that we've sort of
Yeah,
created that are our standard panels that hit the things that my doctors want, that are like our preventative care panels. And I really want those to be affordable. So literally every year I argue with them and I'm like, you need to make this price better because it goes up by $5 to $10 every single thing every
yeah,
single year. And if you're doing your markups appropriately, that means you're increasing it to your client by anywhere from $10 to $20, if not more, depending on the thing and depending on the increase. So like every year, I'm like, hey, like what can you do on this price for me? Because we run a ton of these panels and I need to keep it affordable. So don't be
yeah.
afraid to do that because they will, you can talk to them and they will adjust some prices for you if you have that conversation. But like, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take is how I feel about it.
100%. And a lot of folks don't realize that that is negotiable. And
Oh, totally.
similarly, when they give you the relationship agreements, oh, we're going to do X, Y, and Z for you. These are your targets. All those terms are negotiable. And you
Hmm.
can say, well, no, this isn't going to work for me. No, thank you. They'll come back a week or 2 weeks later. Hey, we sweetened the deal for you.
Yep.
It's what's written is not what has to be accepted. And that is very true across all the
Yes.
labs. Yeah, for
Agreed.
sure.
Agreed. And yeah, like when we re-signed with them, we heavily negotiated and got some like things worked into it to help upgrade a bunch of our computers because we knew we were going to need those upgraded. So like
Yeah,
you can even get kind of creative of like what they cover because they'll even cover stuff or at least give you like the equivalency of like points that then you can use towards that bill, even if then you use that money for something that maybe
right.
they don't cover because we even had them like work in money to help like upgrade. I don't know, I think it was our x-ray machine, which we didn't even buy from them, but they gave us like money towards it as like part of our negotiating because I like
Yeah.
negotiate really heavily because we're a big account. I have a lot of doctors. We spend a lot of money with IDEX. So like it's a mutually beneficial thing for us both to kind of advocate for ourselves and what we can get from them.
Yeah. And when you're bigger, you can throw your weight around. But they even, I have a lot of clients, one and a half doctor practices
Oh
that are
yeah.
able to negotiate.
Yep.
So, size doesn't always have to matter. It's
No.
just taking the step and
Yep.
making that a priority. So,
Agreed.
yeah,
Agreed.
very
All right, well,
cool.
good. Well, I feel like this is a good list. So, okay, why don't you recap the list and we'll wrap it up there. And then maybe we should do another one where we talk about, because we didn't even talk about like KPIs and stuff,
Oh,
which
I
I feel like
know.
is like a whole nother
Yeah,
conversation.
these are good. We need,
I know.
everybody to go on vacation more often so we could talk more
Yes.
numbers.
More numbers and spreadsheets. I have so many, probably
Yeah.
a fraction of what you have, but I've got a lot
Yeah,
too.
these are good. So yes, our kind of year-end wrap up, forward facing. We talked about the effective doctor compensation.
Mhm.
Definitely do that for practices that have one associate or more. Just to review that, talked about which I loved as a goal resolution for this year, the 15 or 10, 15-minute check-ins with all your employees at a
Yep.
minimum with your associates. I love that. That is a great goal for everyone for this year. And it
Yeah.
reinforces culture and
Yep.
communication channels. Try to make that happen.
Yep.
Practice price index. It
Yeah, I love
only
that.
takes a little bit of time, twice a year. You could do it more frequently, but things don't change that frequently. If you note it changing a lot, then maybe quarterly to test that
Yeah.
um, could be a good step to take. And then the challenge, which maybe we should have done that first, but step up using your practice software for inventory, if
Yes.
only to manage your flea tick heartworm. Start
Yes.
with that. But yeah, I think four really groovy things that can make a
Yes.
difference in your practice.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I feel like all four of those in a different way help you keep an eye on some of the most
Yeah,
important things that are going to impact your bottom line on a year-over-year basis. That I think if you even start there and you're not doing any of those things or all of those things, I think it could make a humongous difference for you in your practice. And hey, like, don't beat yourself up if you're not doing these things. Like, you only
right.
know what you know, right? So, like, the
And you
more
only
you
have so
talk.
much time.
Right. So the
Um,
more you talk to people and the more that you hear things like this podcast and get ideas, pick something out of it and try it. And like David said too, let us know if you try it or if either of us can give you any advice or feedback. Like we are both people who just want vet med to be a good place. So if we
Yeah.
can do anything to help too, please let us know.
And we're all a work in progress. We
Yes.
just want to do it a little better
1%
next
better
time.
every day. 1%. All
This
right.
was
Well,
fun. Thank you,
yes,
Beth.
I love this topic. I love nerding out about numbers. So we'll have to do it again for sure.
Sounds good.
All
And
right.
thank you
Well,
all for listening.
yes, with that, goodbye, everyone.